Welcome again for everybody that's joining us to the University of California Admissions Requirements Overview. This is understanding A through G subject requirements, as well as those A through G course subject area requirements. My name is Javon Arias Edwards. I'm the Associate Director for School Services at UC Santa Barbara. And today we're going to talk all things UC admission and selection requirements. Let's go ahead and take a look at the agenda. Firstly, we are going to introduce you to the UC Santa Barbara team, so you know who your point of contact will be moving forward if you have any questions related to the UC admission process or UC Santa Barbara. We're going to define what it means to be a first year applicant versus a transfer applicant and the different pathways to come to UC. Then we're going to dive into what you're really here for, which is the University of California admissions requirements, looking at both the A through G course list, as well as understanding what the UC GPA calculation is. And then we're also going to be taking a look at what we're considering selection. What is the selection considerations for UC admission? Outside of academics, what else are we looking for from an applicant? And then lastly, we'll round it out with a few resources for you all. And with this session, again, we will talk for about 40 minutes together and we will have some time for Q&A. If you do have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A at the very bottom of your screen. So here is the UC Santa Barbara outreach admissions team for our first year freshman applicants. So if you in the virtual audience out there are thinking about applying to UC Santa Barbara or the University of California as a whole, you can always reach out to your UCSB admissions counselor that you may see on the screen currently. Again, I did myself an introduction, Javon Arias Edwards, but I'm joined by a few different colleagues that are going to be able to support you throughout your academic journey, transitioning, hopefully crossing fingers to UC Santa Barbara. We have Kennedy that's on the screen. She is the Assistant Director of High School Services, followed by Gia, Yair, Rico, Silali, and Julian that are going to be serving as your first year freshman admission counselors. So feel free to scan the QR code that you're seeing on the screen. That QR code will take you to our Find Your Counselor tool, where you're simply going to type in your school name, and then you're going to be able to see who your admissions counselor is. If it's not myself, it might be somebody else that is on this screen. Now, know that I'm going to be asking a few questions here and there throughout the presentation. And one of the questions that I want you to either type into the chat, yes, I will unlock the chat so you can type it in, and or you can think about it, that's completely fine. But if you'd like to add into the chat, how many UC campuses are there? And I've got some really fast typers. Some are saying 10, some said 8, some said 22. I got one that said 9, another said 9, another said 9. I got a few more 10s. Wow, you guys are really fast. There are 9 UC campuses in California. Yeah, so there are going to be, guess what? Technically 10 UC campuses in the state of California. Technically 10. Now, if you said 9, you're also right. There are 9 undergraduate campuses in the University of California system. If you're curious to know what that 10th campus is, that 10th campus is UC San Francisco. UC San Francisco is a graduate level university, so only students that are seeking their master's or doctoral degrees can go to UC San Francisco. But for those of you that are seeking a bachelor's degree, yep, graduating high school and going right into the university, there are 9 total undergraduate campuses for you to choose from. Now, there's a lot of variety with the University of California campuses. Know that we are all tier 1 research institutions. So we all really focus on research at our universities. University of California is the top research system in the entire world, not just California, not just the nation, the entire world. So it doesn't matter which UC campus you decide to go to, know that research is accessible to all students, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. There's variation in the UC campuses based on major offerings, based on location, based on athletics. So we really want you to do your research to better understand which UC campus is the best fit for you. It's not about necessarily me as the UC Santa Barbara rep trying to sell you on UC Santa Barbara. It's really about you figuring out, is UCSB the right school for me? based on my major interests, based on the research opportunities and the faculty that I want to work with, based on the location. Do I want to be close to home or away from home? Do I want to be near the beach? Based on the athletics that we have. Yeah, UC Santa Barbara is a D1 Division I NCAA university. So things to consider when you're researching a campus is again, does it have what you need to, yes, succeed, but also to thrive because it has everything that you need in terms of academics and non-academics? Now, let's go ahead and talk about the differences between a first year applicant and a transfer applicant. So you can see the definitions on the screen, but I want to make sure I spell it out because I still get a lot of students that are scratching their heads saying, should I apply as a transfer? I have college credit, I've been a dual enrollment program, or should I apply as a freshman? I'm not too sure. So let's go ahead and talk about what the UC policy is for freshman applicants versus how a UC policy might be defined for transfer applicant. So first year or freshman applicants are students that are currently in high school or potentially they have graduated high school, but they haven't enrolled in a regular session of college coursework or university coursework in the fall, winter, or spring after their high school graduation. Keywords after their high school graduation. So, if you are completing dual enrollment courses, you're completing college level coursework, but you're still in high school and you haven't graduated high school, you need to apply as a first year freshman applicant. I have a lot of students, not a lot, but a good amount of students that are coming in and applying to UC Santa Barbara that have an associate's degree. They have a ton of college credit. They are still applying as a first year freshman applicant because guess what? They haven't graduated from high school just yet. Transfer applicants are going to be applicants that have left or graduated high school and they've enrolled in a regular college or university after the summer of their high school graduation. All right. Again, what is the differences between freshman and transfer? It is all about graduating and then taking college coursework in a regular term. Regular term being the fall, winter, spring. So if you graduated high school and took summer coursework right after graduation of high school, you would still be considered a freshman or first year applicant. All right. If you have questions, feel free to use that Q&A so I can get to those questions at the end of the presentation. Now, with freshman admission consideration, which is what we're going to focus on for today's presentation, we are going to be looking at two main considerations, two main requirements to meet UC eligibility. You have to complete these two requirements in order to be considered for admission to University of California. The first requirement is that students are completing what's called the A through G courses. And the A through G courses are 15-year-long academic courses. These are the core subject areas that you're completing in high school. I know that I have students in here that are out of the state of California or international students, and you might not be familiar with what A through G is. And we'll talk a little bit further in depth later down the line about what those A through G considerations are. Know that the second requirement is going to be your completion of a 3.0 GPA in those A through G courses if you're a California applicant, or a 3.4 GPA if you are a non-resident, a non-California applicant. Yes, my non-California applicants, we are holding you at a higher standard, and that minimum GPA is going to be a 3.4. There's something to note, and it's on the screen. So please, please pay attention to it. Because while these two considerations are the main considerations for eligibility, keyword eligibility, UC admission selection is going to be considered competitive and it's going to want students to exceed these minimum two requirements, exceeding the 15-year-long A through G courses, exceeding that minimum UC GPA. So again, these are just the two baseline considerations to be admitted to UC campus, but selection goes further than that. Let's go ahead and dive into the A through G requirements a little bit more, and just so everybody has a clear understanding, because this might be new terminology for some students out there. So again, those A through G subject area requirements are a 15-unit college preparatory course pattern. I get a lot of students that get hung up on college prep. What does that mean? Well, these courses in high school are preparing you for the courses that you have to complete in college. So they're college preparatory courses. And there are 15 units to them. So if we were to look at the A through G courses here and look at the years required, 2 years for history, 4 years for English, 3 years for math, 2 years for science, 2 years for language other than English, 1 year for visual and performing arts, and 1 year for college prep elect. That equals, for my mathematicians out there, 15 total years or 15 units. Okay. Now, with the A through G courses, you have to complete these courses during your high school years. And for all of the years required, all of those units, you have to get at least a C or higher. Is a C minus okay? Yeah, it's okay in the eyes of UC because in the UC application, you do not report pluses or minuses. A C minus is a C. A C plus is a C. A B minus is a B. A B plus is a B. You get the picture. Now, for these 15 units, 11 of those 15 units need to be completed prior to the beginning of your senior year. So 11 of those units need to be completed by junior year. Again, this is a part of the eligibility consideration. Now, for the ways in which you can complete those courses, you have multiple different options. High school coursework is going to be the primary option, which many of you are currently working towards. You're completing these college prep courses through your high school curriculum. Another way to complete these A through G courses is going to be through examination, specifically advanced placement or international baccalaureate IB examination. If you're receiving an eligible score for an AP exam or IB exam, you can potentially receive credit for one of those subject areas depending on the exam that you completed. College level coursework, same thing. You can fulfill those A through G courses with a semester of college level coursework, specifically UC transferable college level coursework. So know that that is an option for you, and it is going to be dependent on the college course that you are completing. Lastly, you might be scratching your heads because you're seeing middle school coursework at the bottom of the fulfillment options. Seventh and eighth grade middle school coursework can be considered towards completing and fulfilling those A through G requirements, specifically for mathematics and language other than English. So some of you in the virtual audience right now have completed maybe algebra in ninth grade. Well, if you, excuse me, algebra in eighth grade. And if you completed algebra in eighth grade, you can report it in the UC application. That algebra in eighth grade will count towards your 3-year requirement. You've moved on from algebra and then you completed geometry in ninth grade, and then you completed algebra 2 in 10th grade. You're at 3 years. You've met the minimum requirement for mathematics. Language other than English is the same consideration. Maybe in seventh grade you completed Spanish 1. In eighth grade you moved on to Spanish 2. Now in ninth grade you're in Spanish 3. Well, you've exceeded the minimum requirement for language other than English. In terms of exceeding requirements, we talked about in the last slide, the 15 minimum is indeed a minimum. And we recommend students exceed those minimums because it adds to their competitive application. It makes them more competitive for admission. For mathematics, science, and language other than English, those subject areas that have asterisks next to them, we recommend an additional year of completion. So for mathematics, we recommend 4 years. Science, we recommend 3 years. Language other than English, we recommend 3 years. Now, we're going to focus on UC Santa Barbara, not necessarily UC at this point, but I want to give you guys an idea of the importance of exceeding the minimum requirements when we're talking about those A through G courses. Now, on average, students that were admitted to UC Santa Barbara had closer to 23 to 28 28 A through G courses. 23 to 28 average year-long A through G courses. Remember I said the minimum is 15. So that means students are exceeding that 15 and getting closer to the 23 to 28, and those are the students that are competitive for admission. You'll see that students that applied to UCSB, those that applied that had less than 20 units, that was 3% of our applicants. But the students that were admitted that had less than 2%, excuse me, less than 20 units, that was 2% of our admitted students compared to students that had 25 A through G courses. That was 65% of our admitted students. This is just one factor in the admission consideration. Know that, yes, we are looking at GPA, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. And we also look at non-academic factors, but it's really, again, to emphasize that we are recommending that students exceed that minimum 15 threshold. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the A through G course list because I know out there that there are students that are attending potentially California high schools that have no idea what course falls where in the A through G pattern. And luckily for you, we have an A through G course list. This A through G course list is something that me and my team and your high school counselors utilize. And this is going to be a database for all California high schools for the most part that have inputted pretty much all of their high school curriculum and are telling UC what courses are available to students at that given high school that fall under the A through G pattern. What you're seeing on the screen is a screenshot of the A through G course list, and you can also go to this website here, hs-articulation.ucop.edu/AG course list. And when you go to that website or scan the QR code, you can input your school name. This screenshot has the school for Pacifica High School, which is one of our local high schools in Oxnard, California. And what it's pulling right now is all of the Area A courses that fall under history and social sciences at Pacifica High School. And it is telling students specifically what's available, what under what discipline, so civics, world history, US history, what have you. And it's also going to give an indicator of what is a UC approved honors course. UC approved honors courses have stars next to them in yellow. And so if you're seeing that star, you are seeing that this course has been pre-approved by the University of California to be a rigorous course. It is going to be a UC approved honors course. That could be a honors course, AP course, IB course. And that means students are getting weighted GPA point consideration. For every weighted course a student completes, they get 1 point per semester towards their UC GPA up to 8 semester points. So that's boosting your GPA, which we love. I'm going to talk about GPA in just a little bit, but I want to make sure that you all had the opportunity to scan that QR code on the screen because I want you to take a look and find your school. If you're attending a school outside of the state of California, know that unfortunately, we just do not have the resources and manpower to create a database that has all of the schools in the US, all of the schools in the world. We can only focus on California, unfortunately. But this is going to be still a great tool for you to take a look at what California schools are offering and how does the school curriculum assign specific courses and what A through G area is that course assigned. So if you're taking, for example, a music design and theory course, what does that fall under? You can take a look at California high schools and see what does music design and theory fall under, and it's likely going to be an area F, visual and performing arts. Another great tool to use, especially for any of my students that are attending a California community college, is going to be assist.org. Assist.org is going to be an articulation tool. What does that mean? That means that you are going to be able to see what college courses that you're completing at that California Community College are equivalent to what UC Santa Barbara offers, or you can also check to see what California Community College coursework will indeed transfer over so that you can get college credit before you come to UC Santa Barbara. What you're taking a look here is a screenshot of assist.org and looking at Ventura College, another local California community college near us, and it's showing all of the Spanish courses offered. And it's showing specifically that Spanish V101 elementary Spanish is indeed transferable. And students are able to get some general education credit for taking this college course. There's also a star next to Spanish V01, and that star indicates that Spanish V01 at Ventura College is equivalent to 2 years of high school study. So that means if you were to take one semester of this elementary Spanish at Ventura College, just one semester, you're able to fulfill the 2 year language other than English requirement that UC has just by taking one semester college level course. Keep in mind that at this time, assist.org only shows the equivalent years received for high school credit for language other than English courses. So assist.org can be helpful for that. It can also, again, be helpful just to understand what is transferable to University of California, to UCSB, any UC campus, and what will articulate specifically to a given campus. Wow, we are talking through a lot of stuff. So as a reminder, if you do have questions, feel free, please, 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 to add those questions in the Q&A. I will get to questions in just a little bit. So let's go ahead and talk about the UC GPA. We covered the first requirement, which is the UC A through G requirements. To reiterate, the UC GPA has some minimum eligibility requirements to be considered for UC admission. Again, these are the minimums. 3.0 minimum GPA for California residents and a 3.4 minimum for non-California residents. But these GPA benchmarks are used using a very specific calculation. This is not going to be the GPA that you're seeing on your high school transcript currently. We are looking specifically at 10th and 11th grade A through G courses completed only to determine your UC GPA and whether or not you've met those minimums. 10th and 11th grade only, and A through G coursework only. Physical education is not an A through G course, so you're not going to add it to your UC GPA calculation. TA or teacher's assistance is not an A through G course, so you're not going to add it to your UC GPA calculation. Now, as mentioned before, for the GPA calculation, if you've completed any quote unquote UC honors level courses, again, that is honors, AP, IB, college level coursework, you get a 1 point semester boost to your GPA up to 8 semester points. And so that boost can be applied to any of the courses, again, that you completed between 10th and 11th that are considered UC honors level. Now, for UC honors level coursework, I've mentioned again, I just want to reiterate, if you're in dual enrollment, you're completing college level coursework, so that does count towards those UC honors level courses, AP, IB, and then UC certified honors courses. When you're on your UC A through G course list for your school, again, remember that star designation indicates that it is indeed a UC approved course. All right. Oh, I'm seeing some questions in the chat, which is totally fine. I think I addressed a few of them. One of them was, what is college prep elective? Again, these are just the high school courses that you're completing in high school that are preparing you for college. So those are college prep electives. Hello, I'm curious if elective courses such as journalism, music, international relations, or even PE are considered as same units for application. Yeah, PE is not something that we want you to report in the UC application. No, physical education is not A through G. Journalism, it really depends on the school in which you're attending. I've seen journalism be considered an Area G elective. I've seen journalism be an Area B English. So it really depends. Again, you're going to want to use that A through G course list if you are out of this state. So if you are not in California, you can go ahead and reach out to us and we can help you figure out maybe where that course falls. All right, I think I took all the questions from the chat. I've now closed the chat. If you have any other questions, just use the Q&A. Okay, many of you might be wondering at this point, well, I know there is a UC GPA. I know that we're looking at 10th and 11th grade only. I know that I get a weighted point per semester for honors level courses, but like, how do I figure out what my UC GPA is? And I'm going to break it down for you and we're going to show an example. But this is something that you can calculate on your own if you would like to. Our office can also help you, but know that when you're applying in the UC application, we are calculating it for you. The system calculates what your UC GPA is based on what you report for your coursework and your grades received. So you don't have to worry about figuring out what your UC GPA is. We'll do it for you. But if you want to do it manually, you can totally do that yourself. If you want to follow along, you're more than welcome to follow the screen and the steps that are listed on the screen, but we also have a website that will have the same exact steps. So feel free to bookmark that website if you need to. The very first step is that you're taking a look at your unofficial transcript and you're removing all of the non-A through G courses. Non-A through G courses are PE courses, like I mentioned, TA courses, anything that is not on that A through G course list if you're a California high school student. Again, if you don't know what's an A through G course and maybe you're on an international curriculum or you're out of state, again, reach out to us. We can help you figure it out. Step two is that you're removing the pluses or minuses. I mentioned this earlier in the presentation. UC does not consider pluses or minuses. An A is an A. An A plus is also an A. An A minus is also an A. Then you're going to be converting those grades to a 4.0 scale. And you can see that 4.0 scale on the screen. A is equivalent to a 4, B is equivalent to a 3, C is equivalent to a 2, D is equivalent to 1, F is equivalent to 0, right? Once you've done that conversion, you're now going to start adding that 1 point per term for those weighted courses that you completed. And again, up to 8 semesters. Again, we'll have a practice on this. From there, you're tallying up the grade points by the term and dividing the points by the number of grades. Yes, you got to do a little bit of math here, but I promise you it is not that complex. Let's take a look. On the screen, we are just looking at an example transcript, and this transcript is only going to focus on grade 11. But just a reminder, the UC GPA is looking at grades 10 and 11. Pop quiz question. I won't ask you to respond, but I want you to think about it. Should you report your 9th grade courses and grades in the UC application? If you said yes out loud, you are correct. Please do not forget to report your 9th grade courses and grades. Is 9th grade counted towards your UC GPA? No, it is not. You should also report your 12th grade courses that are in progress and planned when you're applying. Are they counted towards the UC GPA? No, they are not. Again, this is 10th and 11th grade only. So the students completed English, world history, pre-calc, chemistry, Spanish 3, physical education, and AVID advancement via individual determination 11. You can see their fall term grades and their spring term grades and the total grades that they have. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward. I mentioned here total grades, and you might have been counting like that doesn't look like 12 total grades. Well, now it's 12 total grades because we removed the non-A through G course, which is that first step. So now we should have 12 total grades. Hopefully my math is correct. Now we can move forward. The next step is we have removed the pluses and minuses because we don't care about pluses and minuses, and we've converted those grades to a 4.0 scale. A is equivalent to 4, B is equivalent to 3, C is equivalent to 2, and so forth. The next piece is that we're adding 1 point for any weighted coursework. So this student completed an AAP course. So they got a grade of an A, which gave them a 4, but they get to add 1 point because it's a weighted course. And they get to add another point for that spring term because they completed 2 terms of that weighted course. All right. Now we are going to do that math because we need to tally the grade points by term and divide the points by the number of grades. Remember, we already did a little bit of math beforehand. We have 12 total grades. And if I add up all of these grade points, I get a total of 46 points. So now looking at this student, I'm going to automatically plug in grade 10 because again, we were only looking at grade 11. So grade 10, they had 40 points. Total of grades were 10. Grade 11, we noted that they have 46 points, total of 12 grades. If I add up all the points and add up all the grades between 10th and 11th, I have 86 points and 22 grades. 86 divided by 22 equals a 3.91 GPA. They have exceeded the minimum requirements. Wonderful. And that's how you calculate the UC GPA. All right, so many good things, so many questions coming up. I got a question that I'll go ahead and pause for. What does 1 point mean? Is that adding a 1.0 to that class only? Hopefully that last slide that I shared kind of gives you an idea. The 1 point ultimately means that you're adding a 1 point per semester because this student, for example, took a UC approved weighted course. They took an advanced placement course. So they get to add the 1 point to their GPA, giving them a GPA point boost. It just raises their GPA higher. Hopefully that answered that question. Another question regarding A through G is world language like French a core course? Yes, it is. And I'll go back a slide just so we can take a look at those A through G subject areas one more time. And so the requirements will look slightly different depending on what type of curriculum you are doing. If you're in the state of California or in the US, you need to follow pretty much this curriculum here. But for your question regarding French, is French a core course? It absolutely is, and it would be a part of the language other than English. If I have any international students that are in the session today, know that the language requirement needs to be a language other than your core instruction in the country in which you're residing. So if you happen to be in South Korea and your language of instruction is Korean, well, I'm going to expect you to complete another language other than Korean. It could be English, it could be French, it could be what have you. For the Area B requirement, again, giving it another example, if a student is international, I'm not going to ask my international students to complete 4 years of English because that's probably not the language of instruction at your school. Again, giving the example of Korea, if you're in Korea, you need to take 4 years of the language in which you're being instructed in. You need to take 4 years of Korean. Okay, so those are the small nuances and differences for students that might be international. One other nuance is the history requirement. I'm not going to ask you to complete 1 year of US history. No, those are for my US students. Yes, you need to know US history if you're in the US. But if you're in, again, China, for example, you can take that history of China. You can take the history of whatever country that you're residing in. The second year of history slash social sciences could be a world history. It could be a world history or cultures course or civics, for example. Again, there's multiple ways in which you can fulfill the curriculum, and sometimes it is dependent on the country in which you're residing. I'm happy to address additional questions about those A through G considerations in just a little bit. We are wrapping up on the presentation, but I want to make sure that it's very clear that we're looking at other considerations other than academics and those GPA and A through G courses. So we talked about these two minimum requirements, but what about selection? Well, UC campuses are using a holistic or comprehensive review. We are taking a look at 13 13 in total review factors, and each UC campus can prioritize some of those 13 factors. The 13 factors I'll show in a screen in just a little bit, but know that they are going to be comprised of both academic, non-academic, extracurricular, and contextual factors. We're also going to be asking you a few questions, which are called the personal insight questions, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And another consideration that students need to keep in mind is the applicant pool. Every single year, the applicant pool changes, and that potentially changes how competitive it is for admission. So, focusing on the 13 factors for admission, you are now taking a look at them on the screen, and you can also scan the QR code that will take you to the University of California's website on how applications are reviewed. Know that I'm not going to go over every single one of the 13, but I want you to get an idea that we are looking at multiple different factors. Again, academics and non-academics. Factors such as your location of your high school. Factors such as the quality of your senior year and that you're not having senioritis just yet, that you're continuing to challenge yourself. We're looking at your special talents, your achievements. We're looking at the improvement in your academic performance. So the improvement over time, maybe between ninth grade and 10th grade, maybe between ninth grade and 11th grade. And overall, we're looking at the accomplishments in light of your life experiences. It is so important for students to share context about who they are, their achievements, their challenges, and they have to share that context throughout the entire UC application. And there's opportunities to do so in the additional comments section, the personal insight questions section. And so please inform the application reader, us in the Office of Admissions, about who you are as an individual and what you've gone through in life. And it's okay for you to brag about your experiences. It's okay to tell us about your challenges. We pretty much want to know it all up to the extent that you're comfortable with. Now, considerations in the UC application include your involvement. So we want to know about your activities and awards. Activities and awards can include those honors that you receive. This could be school-based, community-based. These could be state or regional or national or world honors. We're interested in understanding the different educational preparation programs that you might have been a part of within your school or within your community organization. We're interested in understanding your extracurricular activities and your hobbies. We want to know, did you take any coursework other than the coursework that you reported that falls under A through G courses, such as did you take a LinkedIn course? Did you take a Microsoft Office course and receive a certificate? Did you take a college level course that was not transferable? These would be examples of coursework other than A through G. And then we're going to ask, did you do any type of work or have any work experience or community service experience? So these are the type of categories that we're looking for activities and awards. We're also going to be asking you a few questions, and these questions are called the personal insight questions, also known as PIQs. And the PIQs are the way in which an application reader can get to know you best. We do not conduct interviews in the UC system. We do not conduct in-person or virtual interviews. We do not take into consideration letters of recommendation unless students are applying to selective majors. We do not track demonstrated interest. So although you go on a campus tour or you attend a virtual presentation, we are not collecting that data for the purpose of giving you additional admission consideration. So how do we get to know who you are? Well, this is going to be through the personal insight questions. If you scan the QR code that's on the screen, it'll take you to the personal insight questions webpage where you can see all of the 8 questions. Know that we host personal insight question workshops over the summer and into the fall months as students are getting ready to apply. So we have a resource that's available for students that are interested in understanding more in-depth information about the PIQs and how to best craft their personal insight questions. From the 8 questions that are available, you only have to respond to 4 of them, and we ask you to respond to the 4 that really resonate with your experiences. What do you want to tell me, the application reader, about who you are? So pick the questions that you really feel resonate with your life experiences and information that you want to share with me. All questions do hold equal value, so I don't have a preference on which question you decide to respond to. And each of those questions have a 350 word maximum. So we are not looking for the responses to be an essay. This is really intended to be an interview on paper. So if I were to ask you one of the questions, as if we were sitting down one to one doing an interview, how would you respond back to me? And how you respond back to me is exactly how you should write it on your personal insight question response in the application. I do not need fluff. I do not need storytelling. I need you to get to the point and answer the question just like you would in an in-person interview. Now, PIQs, personal insight questions, are absolutely used for admission consideration, and some UC campuses also use them for scholarship consideration. Okay, let's go ahead and briefly talk about guaranteed admission for first year applicants. And there's a guarantee specifically for my California applicants. There are two guarantees available. The first guarantee is the statewide guarantee, and I'll talk briefly on that. And the second guarantee is the local guarantee, also known as the eligibility in the local context. Both of these guarantees are available for students that are California residents and they have met the minimum UC admission requirements, but did not receive an offer to any UC campus. If students applied and they did not receive an offer at that point, if they're eligible for the guarantees, we will go ahead and guarantee them admission to UC. Admission guarantee is typically going to be the campus that has available space, and that campus has historically been UC Merced. So please keep in mind that as a state university, a California public state university, we are servicing the taxpayers of California, and the taxpayers are the parents, and therefore we are servicing the students. And so we have provided guaranteed pathways for our California residents in the statewide guarantee and local guarantee as well, as long as the students meet the eligibility requirements. So I won't go too much in depth unless there's questions about those particular guarantees. But wrapping up on today's presentation before we go into Q&A, know that we do have a lot of digital resources that are available. You've signed up for a virtual webinar. Please continue to sign up for additional ones that spark your interest. In the summer, and actually these are live now, if I have any students that are applying for fall 2027, know that we have some webinars that will be posted in the next few weeks that are going to be UC application focused. So I mentioned before, if you're interested in learning more about the PIQs, join our UC PIQ webinar. If you're interested in just getting an overview of the UC application, we have a UC application broad overview, and then we have special ones for our students outside of the state of California and ones that are for students outside of the nation, so international applicants. In in summer, this summer, we will have the UC application tutorial series for anybody that's applying for fall 2027 admission. So make sure you look for that playlist on our YouTube channel at UCSB, the number 4me, so that you can watch some of the videos to help you navigate through the UC application. Wow, we got through a lot of information, and so hopefully I was able to address a lot of your questions about the UC admission requirements. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Q&A. So if you haven't gotten a chance to ask your questions, please feel free to do so now. All right. So, what if your school does not offer many APs or honors courses? We are a college prep high school, and APs are not offered until 11th and 12th grade and are very limited. Same with honors courses. Great question. So, if your school is limited on the amount of honors courses, AP courses, what have you, that are available, you need to tell me. You need to provide me with that context. And you can provide me with that context in the additional comments section in the academic history section of the application. Let me know that your school has policies that limit the amount of rigorous coursework that students are able to complete in ninth and 10th grade, and that only 11th and senior students are able to access those courses. You can tell me that you really wanted to challenge yourself and take those rigorous courses, but you just did not have the opportunity to do so. You did not have the opportunity because you were limited in that your school did not offer as many rigorous courses, but you're also limited by school policy because those courses are only available to those junior and senior students. I'm going back to the holistic review. And I want to highlight, and hopefully I can find it really quickly. Yes, number 6. So we are looking at overall your quality of your academic performance, yes, but it's relative, again, to the educational opportunities available to you at your high school. Okay, so know that you sharing that context will help me understand because I do not have your school's curriculum when I'm reviewing your application. I do not have your school's profile. So you have to tell me as much information as possible. There you go. The words. All right. Moving on to questions. Is honors or advanced classes weighted in the UC system? Yeah, it is. Yeah, we discussed that. So if you are taking any UC approved honors, if you're taking any AP, IB college level coursework, those are weighted, and we will give you weighted consideration towards your UC GPA. If you've completed any weighted coursework or plan to complete any weighted coursework in your senior year, we're also going to take into consideration that senior year plan coursework. Again, looking at number 5, the quality of your senior year and the course load. I want to know, are you still challenging yourself in your senior year? So that's a consideration. Oh, great question. So does being in the top 9% apply for small private schools out of state that don't actually have class rankings? So I'm gonna answer this in multiple different ways. So when I was talking about the guarantees for admission and this top 9% here, identification and high school ELC, this ELC eligibility in the local context as well as statewide guarantee is California specific. So students that are not attending a California high school cannot be eligible for the guaranteed admission through ELC or the statewide guarantee. So if you happen to be in the top 9% of your high school, but you're out of the state of California, that's still good, but you're going to want to tell me in the additional comment section. We do not uh, view class rankings. So if you're ranked number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5 out of 200 students, what have you, you can tell me that in the additional comment section. That's information that I just will not be able to view off the bat. That's information that we don't ask for, so you would have to tell me. Again, if you are in the top 9%, I love that for you. But if you're out of the state of California, it's not going to be a consideration towards the eligibility in the local context guarantee or statewide guarantee. And if your school does not have class rankings, that's okay. Again, we are not specifically asking for that information. If you have it to share, you can absolutely share it, but it's not going to be a consideration per se for admission. It just gives us more context to the fact that you were challenging yourself at your high school, given the opportunities available to you, and your school's rankings can be shared in the additional comments section. It's just not something that we're requiring or asking of you. I love these questions. Continue on, and hopefully we can get through as many within the next 9 minutes that we do have left. Same kind of question here. How would you review an international online high school student considering my high school does not do class rankings and context between my peers vastly differs? Okay, a couple of things there. We do not compare applicants. All right. Two, this is like I could take this so many different ways. you and what you're completing or what you're taking in terms of coursework will not be compared to another applicant that also applied to UCSB that's attending the same school that you are. I'm not doing a compare and contrast. I'm not just pulling all of the students that are attending the same high school and seeing who has the better GPA, who's taken the most coursework. I'm not doing that. We do not compare applicants. So know that your application is going to get a thorough review and it's not going to be a comparing game. I don't even compare applicants from students that are attending different high schools. Okay. So again, the class rankings conversation, if you have that information and you want to share it, great. If you don't have that information, it's not going to penalize you in the review process. If you are taking coursework through an international online high school, my first hope is that that high school is accredited. And secondly, you need to tell me maybe additional context as to why you opted to take online high school coursework versus in person. Was it a conversation of accessibility? Was it a conversation that you preferred that international high school and the online curriculum that they were able to offer? Because I love that you're able to take coursework online, right? And that's okay if you have, but maybe there's more to the story that I'm missing, so you can share that context with us. I love that question, by the way. Oh, this is a good question. And I'm going to have you circle back with me if you don't mind. Maybe by emailing us, and I'll put our email back on the screen. Oh, did I have it? Nope. I will type our email into the chat. It is admissions@ucsb.edu. The question is pertaining to the average GPA for admits in the IB system. I don't have that information. I really don't. And I wish I could tell you. I just don't know. And I don't want to um like falsify information because I just have no idea. Unfortunately, we just don't have that data conversion, or at least I don't accessible to me right now. So that's something I want you to email admissions@ucsb.edu and hopefully we'll be able to provide you that information. I am a student attending an international school in the US curriculum located in South Korea. Oh, did my picture go away? Hold, please. Hopefully I'm still sharing screen. I hope you guys can still see me. Okay. If not, that is no bueno. Okay. I am a student attending an international school, US curriculum located in South Korea. Am I considered as the same pool with Korean applicants from normal Korean high schools here? US curriculum, but it's located in South Korea. Okay, I think I understand your question. And if I do not make sense and this is not what you're asking, just simply ask the question again. So I think what you're trying to get to is the consideration of your local high school, location of your high school and residency. And residency is absolutely a consideration for admission. I mentioned earlier that University of California is a public serving institution, public serving state institution. So we do have enrollment targets that are California specific and enrollment targets that are out of the state of California specific. We are charged, we are mandated to hold and maintain roughly an 80% California student enrollment at our university, and the other 20% is out of state. That does not mean that admission is going to be more selective or more difficult for out-of-state student. It just means that we are going to have a review bucket that's completely separate. One review bucket for international and out-of-state, one review bucket for California. And so you're going to be in the review bucket for all out of state and or international applicants. And we are going to review all students, but the reality is we have certain spots or space available for out of state students, just like we have certain spots and space available for California students. So if you are attending an international school, that's fine, but it really is a matter about your residency. So how are you classified as a resident for admission purposes? And that's the question that we will be asking in the UC application. Okay. Are we able to see these webinars if we want to review information? Absolutely. So I think we were talking about, or I think you're talking about the webinars for our virtual mission events and our tutorial series that are on demand and online. For these virtual admission events, you are simply going to navigate to our UCSB events page, which I will share with you right now. UCSB admission events, and I will add that link into the chat for you all to take a look at. And I will also share screen, hopefully. Let's see, my share screen switch? Yes, it did. So once you're here on the page, you're going to click on register for events. You're going to go to first year events, and you can see there's already some UC application overview presentations. The first one is going to be on June 4th, and we're going to have additional sessions that will open up. We already have a lot of admissions and campus information. So if you're interested in doing any of these particular events, please feel free to sign up for them. Again, these are virtual webinars, very similar to this one. If you'd like to do a campus tour, you're more than welcome to come to campus. We would love to see you in person. Okay. For transfer applicants using the tag program to tag for Santa Barbara, is getting waitlisted normal, or should I send an email to UC Santa Barbara or the UCA admission site? So yeah, it could be normal because it might be a matter that you did not complete the tag requirements, transfer admission guarantee. For those of you that may not be familiar with tag, and we didn't talk about it because this was very much first year admission specific. If you're thinking about coming to UC Santa Barbara, you have two pathways. One pathway is the freshman pathway, another pathway is the transfer pathway. For guarantees, speaking of guarantees, we have the statewide guarantee and the eligibility in the local context guarantee for California students applying as a first year freshman. For transfer students that are attending a California community college, there's the TAG transfer admission guarantee option. And that guarantee is based on students meeting the requirements for TAG, so fulfilling the requirements for TAG. So it is potential that if you apply to UCSB under the TAG program and did not fully complete the TAG requirements, that you might have been waitlisted, and it could have been to an alternate major. It could have been waitlisted as a whole. It does not hurt to email admissions at UCSB or give us a call so that we can further look into your application, because I just can't look into it right now. But that's something that our office can definitely take a look at. I know that athletics are considered an admission, but are performing arts, such as orchestra, also considered? Interesting that you mentioned athletics. And yeah, athletics can definitely be a consideration for admission. But I'll take you back to our holistic review. Looking at number 11, special talents. That special talents could be athletic related. It could be visual and performing arts related. This is not necessarily limited to a particular field. It is going to be potentially athletic related. It could be academic related. It could be based on performance, so music related or art based. It is going to be, again, based on your special talents. Okay. Moving right along, we got a few more questions left, and that's great because our time has come to an end. So I'll try to get to the very few that we have left. Class ranking info and courses offered is all listed on our official school profile sheet. Is that something we can send to you? Great question. You cannot. You cannot send any school profiles. You cannot send any letters of recommendation. You cannot send any personal statements or continued interest. That is not something that we can review. That school profile sheet is not something that you can upload to the UC application. As a matter of fact, for the UC application, you cannot upload anything. We need you to tell us the context of your school's curriculum. We need you to give us the information that we need to know that tells your story and tells what's available to you. Again, looking at number 3, talking about the academic accomplishments in light of your life experiences, and also looking at quality of your performance relative to your educational opportunities in your high school. As a transfer student, how can I get into the honors program? Hello, my transfer student. You are more than welcome to reach out, depending on which honors program you're talking about. I'm assuming letters and science. So the letters and science honors program. And speaking of honors, we do have the letters and science honors program coming up for our virtual open house. And so I'm going to actually redirect you to join that upcoming UCSB virtual open house session. I will go ahead and share screen and show you where you can sign up, but it's very similar to how you signed up for today's session. That College of Letters and Science presentation is happening. Oh my gosh, tomorrow. Can you believe it? At 4 o'clock. So if you're a transfer student, whether you're newly admitted transfer or potentially just have questions about the Letters and Science Honors Program, or you're a freshman student and you might be interested in coming to Letters and Science and their honors program, join the session at 4 o'clock. You can go ahead and register on the main homepage here, register now, and I'll add that into the chat for everybody to take a look at. All right, my last question. If you are accepted admission to UC as a first year student, are you guaranteed admission as a transfer student or given any advantage? No, you are not. So if you apply as a freshman, and you're admitted, it's now up to you to determine whether or not you want to commit to coming to UCSB. And if you commit to coming to UCSB, we'll see you in the fall. If you decide you don't want to commit to UCSB and maybe you want to take the transfer path, take some community college courses, save on some money financially as community college coursework might be cheaper, what have you. If you decide that you are not going to commit to UCSB and accept the offer that we originally provided you as a freshman, you then need to apply as a transfer student if you start to take college level coursework. And we will not give you additional admission consideration because you were previously admitted as a freshman. It's really a clean slate. So you will have to go through the application process again. We are going to look for you to complete specific transfer requirements. And so know that it's going to be a completely separate application process in which we are not giving you additional admission consideration because you were previously admitted as a freshman. Wow, we got through a lot of questions and we are a little bit over time. So I do hope that this session was helpful for you. It was recorded, and so we will probably go ahead and share that recording out. I think that this was an okay session. We will share it out in 5 business days. So if you missed anything, just catch it on our YouTube channel at UCSB for me on our virtual open house playlist. Be sure to email me or admissions if you did not get your question answered. I think I answered most of them, but email admissions@ucsb.edu. All right, take care, everyone. Thank you. Bye.